Let's see. Okay, yeah, that works. Cool. We are going to edit. And we are going to make this public. Save. We are officially live. But that was very unofficial, an unofficial go live post. So let's share to the socials, Scott.
With no warning.
Well, I told them it was going to happen. I didn't have a time.
but we're going to release this, right? Like, it doesn't matter, right?
It's already technically released. That's the point of going live on YouTube. So, like, it's already here. But, like, we can, like I said, we can chop it up and make it more formal and remove all the crap in the beginning that we're doing now, obviously. But, like, we can, like I said, we can chop it up and make it more. Let me remove that sound for a moment. How do I? There we are.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to make it more official.
No, I know. It's okay. We're testing things, all right? You gotta learn, all right? Starting new. As anyone can see, that's tuned in already. You can see that it's powered by SteamYard. We're trying something a little new today. I have never used the SteamYard platform, but I wanted to. So, All right, the social going out.
Do you need me to do anything with it?
I mean, you can share it when I'm done. Oh, did it go to Discord? Just out of curiosity. Actually, the Discord bot's always like 20 minutes late, so it probably didn't.
No, it is. Oh, no, your shorts there.
Yeah. I'm gonna tag some friends. Where was it was the memes guy, right? That was what he was asking the whole purpose of this particular podcast. I don't want to be wrong. I'm just gonna go hashtag.
That's what I had to do.
What?
I had to look into
show off more sleeves.
No, I needed to look into going gold on TCG Player.
Oh, okay. That's a whole other podcast, Scott.
No, I just needed to, it's for my own benefit. I needed to look at it.
All right. What the overall server icon profile like? Ooh, I'll answer this later. Tell you what, I'll put this here. There you go. Anyone can see that post. And then we'll go over to the Facebook. Technically, we weren't supposed to start until 3:30, so anyone that's already hanging out, just know that we were testing some stuff out, and I didn't want to be wrong when we went live, so we got a few minutes. But if you're already hanging out, welcome.
So we tell if anyone's hanging out?
Yeah, there will be. I mean, I can see it. I have it open. I'm actually going to move this down over here with us so I can check in on it from time to time. But you can also, if you just go, you can also just pop out your chat if you want to, which is nice. This has actually been updated since the last time I used this. That's quite cool.
Where do you want me to go?
I'm saying if you go to the YouTube, it'll show you, like, if people comment, you'll see. Like if you just open it up on a browser or whatever.
It's the live thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It has been posted.
Oh, there it is live.
Yeah. Let me switch back. Screw you. Didn't want to show up.
Oh, you put the cover on?
Yeah. That's my my Elsa pick. You know.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah. It's an imitation of the card.
Tell me to hide that. Tell me to mute that.
Yeah, you can mute it.
All right. Well, I don't need to be in there. I don't need to be in there. You can read any questions and make them.
I got you. I got you. All right, I'm posting to this group and this group. There you go. So we got about a minute. I suck. I forgot to bring a water bottle into the room. I'm gonna see if my my wife can help out. Oh. All right. Take this off for a second. If anyone is hanging out. The cool thing is too, actually, Scott, about this is I could actually stream this directly to our Facebook, I think. I think I could do that too. I didn't set that up, but obviously I could, which I thought was cool. So, all right. That is good. Let me exit out of that. Put this to this. And then we'll cycle through. We'll start with that hanging out, right? So, this is the first official podcast of the Into the Unknown. I'm labeling it. I didn't give Scott any choices because I'm a hardcore Frozen fan and he's never seen it, so he lost all privileges. But in all seriousness, welcome to the Forbidden Mountain.
Very fair.
It is very fair. I mean, you know. Welcome to the Forbidden Mountain. If this is your first time here, Scott and I, this is our first podcast, but we've been doing content for about a month now. Gameplay, tier lists, some beginner stuff, all types of stuff that we're trying to cover differently on the channel and things like that. But today we want to focus on organized play. So I have it here set up, kind of just showing off the PBG logo. P.S. I don't know if anyone's really familiar with PBG, but I do love this like rebranded look to their logo to like mesh with the Lorcana logo. Just like it just looks perfect. So PBG was the first organized content, first tournament organizer that announced that they were like, "Yep, we're in Dinsey Lorcana. We're gonna support it. We're gonna run events." So for people that don't know who Pro Play Games are, they are, you know, they've been around for years at this point. You know, for a while. Oh, what are we doing there? They have this whole website set up.
Me?
Yeah, I heard some weird sounds.
Sorry.
They have this
Scratch my ear.
That's fair. They have this whole website set up. They have events that run far and wide all over the place, but they play Battle Saga, Dragon Ball Super, Digimon. They did Transformers trading card game in the past, which is where we know them from. But yeah, so these guys, they run, monthly or bi-monthly events kind of all over North America. As far as I'm concerned, what was their last one? It was just in Palm Springs, California, right? That was PPG that a couple of our friends went to. So that's first and foremost, right? Like this is just one person getting into it. The other that I wanted to start off with is the Pastimes, which is running the Gen Con event, right? So this is Gen Con event. This is where the starter deck events are. This is where the learn to plays are. This is Pastimes who, you can see here, they're a part of Magic Con, right? So like Magic Con's the next thing on their list. I can't go back and see previous events, but like basically they do like all the PAX Unplugs, the PAX South, PAX East and West, all that stuff. So like this is just another big tournament organizer that is already now associated with the game. So like when we start talking about these tweets that have been going out, if you didn't see my short from earlier, that are basically maybe stating that Ravensburg has decided not to host any of their own events. That's okay. We don't need to jump to any conclusions because we already know that these tournament organizers are associated with the game, along with what we believe Star City Games, because they've already been updating their Facebook albums with Dinsey Lorcana cards. They've wrote a few articles about Dinsey Lorcana, and Star City Games is just another one that's like pretty massive and big in the Magic the Gathering world. So with that, Scott, I'm going to throw the floor to you. Can you just give us some insight here of like why we should not be worried about the competitive play aspect of this whatsoever?
I think I think there's a misnomer to call first party support competitive play. That's the first part. So in my opinion, any event you're competing in is competitive play. I think all that they're really stating, and I do want to say that like this came out of an article in France, and it said that Ravensburger France is not doing this. There is, I guess, a small percentage chance that any other area might not be waiting 12 months. Just want to put that out there as well. It just means that there's not going to be any first party large events, which means like your typical Pro Tour type setup or your like regionals lead to nationals, lead to worlds. Like again, anything that's specifically first party that they're saying isn't going to happen. But I don't really think that's that big of a deal because, to be honest with you, most games that are successful in the long run, they start grassroots, and that doesn't even necessarily just mean like local. Like it means local game store, but not necessarily like once a week play, like a Friday Night Magic type thing or like a Pokemon League type thing. We have very large locals. Other groups have very large locals in certain games, and they have their own tournament series of local big events. I don't consider first party in this situation Ravensburger supported professional play for, I would assume, cash prizes to be the only way that you can express yourself competitively in this game. So I'm not worried at all. I think they want a proof of concept, even though I think they have it. I don't think they need any organized play, if you want my honest opinion, to actually sell the game. So from their perspective, from first party perspective, they don't care at all. Like they're going to sell out of the product regardless. They're going to have enough collectors regardless. But to satisfy players like us that are competitively minded, I think what they're doing and taking their time and making sure that the game is working as intended and they have enough grassroots players before they just throw competitive play out there like other games do that are more based on that. I think this is the right move.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I think it's one of those where, I mean, even Wizards of the Coast for a period of time there, where they weren't really full scale supporting their card game either. They were just letting Channel Fireball and Star City Games and among others, like, just kind of take their product and say, okay, you guys do your thing with it, and we'll just keep making cards. And I think that's fine. Like if there isn't. Competitive is not for everyone, right? At first and foremost, like you said, like the game itself at a local standpoint or even at a collector's standpoint is going to be pretty well sought after. If anyone's been paying attention whatsoever for the last couple months. But the competitive point is that there have already been people that have already been associated with the game. And because of that, we don't have much to worry about, yes, us among others are very competitive players. We want to go to events. We want to, test our skills and things like that. And there's going to be plenty of ability to do that, which is the kind of the great thing about this is that it's not the end of the world to hear this one report. And even if there are more similar reports like it,
sure.
Because we're going to have we already know that there's already third party attached to it. So like because there's already third party attached to it, then it's like, okay, well, we'll get ours. It's fine. I think that's really one of the more important things. And then for us, we both have experience with pro play games, right? Like I mean, we've worked together with pro play games in the past. George Machado is a friend of ours. I mean, I talk to George from time to time. I'm sure you do as well. And he's basically runs. When you go to a pro play games event, which will happen in the future, George is normally the guy that's kind of behind the Stellar's desk and things like that. He's kind of everywhere, to be honest, but he's a very nice human being. He's definitely someone that's he's a lot of aspirations, right? Like he's been doing this now and building this for the longest time. Like his tournaments, were really only like on the East Coast. He wasn't traveling far, but like I said, his last one was in Palm Springs, California. So like clearly the brand has grown since Transformers trading card game, which even then I think there was tournaments in Vegas. So like he was already on the growth spurt there. So it's cool to see this type of thing with George and to know that we're already in good hands because Pro Play Games, as I said, I believe they run like bi-monthly events all over the nation, which I understand is not a global thing, but for anyone in North America, Pro Play Games is definitely attached to it, and I can only imagine that globally, wherever you are, wherever you play, you probably have someone like Pro Play Games that's very likely to pick up the game and continue it as well.
I mean, a lot goes into running these type of events, and I don't know that. I mean, from a Wizards perspective in the past and even currently, like you need an entire group of people that are dedicated to just running events. It's not even just like the organized play and what are the rules and what is the judging. I'm talking like securing a location and getting who on board is going to run it for you, and then like I mean, they don't have a network of stores yet either. And like, if you're going to run I don't know what you would call it, like a local to a regional to a national to a world, let's just say like the typical path, right? Like right. You need to have established with certain stores that they can host your local event, and then can they host your regional event, and then can they host your national event, depending on where that's being held. So the national and worlds might be held at a convention. Again, that's where Pastimes comes into play. They're showing they already have a relationship with them, but at the more local and state level, whatever, and regional level, whatever that would be, they haven't established that rapport yet with certain stores, and they're a new trading card game company. They're not a new game company. I don't know what happens in some of their other. I don't know that Villainous has any kind of like organized play. I really have no idea, honestly. I don't know what their board games have, but it takes time to establish those relationships, and I don't think they can't just like, they're not outsourcing that. Like they're not going to Star City and say run this for us. They're not going to even to PPG and saying run this for us. They're saying to PPG and Star City, do what you want. Who cares? We're going to put the product out there. You run the games. And to me, that's just as competitive as anything first party.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I think it's important to note too, like just in general, like once again, like just to follow up, like this isn't some little thing, right? Their PPG is an example. They run their own events, so they go out, they rent hotels or whatever they're doing, right, whatever their space is, and they're hosting 500,000 player events, if not more sometimes, I imagine, and they're doing it for 5 or 6 or 7 different games. So like that is a commitment in itself. So when someone of that, of that stature goes, yep, we're going to pick this game up and add it to our cycle, that's a pretty powerful thing. Pastimes is the opposite, where Pastimes is already connected to all of these, big gaming conventions all over North America throughout the year. So where it's like, okay, well, now I know that any convention that Pastimes are going to be at, they're going to have some level of play. For us, coming from Transformers, that was our biggest events of the year. Was the 3 events that Pastimes were at. They were, that was like our level of qualifier and worlds and things like that type thing. So like they very well could just do that again for Dinsey Lorcana. They already have all the proof. They already do that for Magic the Gathering. They do that for other things as well. So just something to really get across to people is that these aren't little fish in the sea, right? Like these are big fish.
Mhm.
They have the ability to host big events. They're already attached to, gigantic rooms and conventions and things like that. So all this hodgepodge about is they're competitive or not is just like, it's got to go away. It's not true. We're in good hands, and I'm sure it'll only grow as we get closer and closer, and we see more things come from the game as we get, obviously, as we get product and all of those things like that. So, which is good, right? Now, even let's talk about Gen Con for a moment here, right? So, like, Gen Con's whole process through pastimes is like very familiar to what we're used to from from Transformers. There's kind of the same thing. Like, you show up, you play in small, like, in qualifier events, and then you get qualified for an event on Sunday. So, like, that's something that we're super familiar with already. And I know that because of the limitations of the seeding and everything like that, it's not really like a true full scale competitive tournament, right? Like, we don't really need to compare that to what it could be or what it might be later on. But that's the kind of thing that I would expect at these conventions is like, okay, they're going to run, 4 or 5 different events that are going to be qualifiers, and the top X people are going to get in, and that'll be like a top 8 or a top playoff on the Sunday, which again is super familiar for what Transformers did. We did the same thing in Transformers. We would go to Origins or Gen Con, and there would be 8 events, top 8 players all get into the event. And then there would be, or there would be 4 events, and the top 32 players would get in. Whatever the number would be a Sunday fallout for a tournament on Sunday. That's the exact type of structure that we got for Gen Con this year for Dinsey Lorcana. So it's things like that where it's like, I understand it seems small and little, but at the same time, it's like, well, this could be what the competitive scene might look like through pastimes. For Pro Play games, it's different. We know that it's different. We know that they do the store level qualifications. Like they will set up store packets once the game gets launched, once the games get going, once certain players or certain communities really start showing out. They will do these things to where like they'll have these local events at your local game store where like the winner gets a buy or something like that to one of their big Pro Play events and things like that. So all of that stuff is set up, it's in place, and it's good because it already means that there's these attachments, which is really all we need to be looking for, rather than looking for a couple mismatched words, a potential, crisis. I guess, it's what it seems like. It seems like we're in a crisis. There's no high level competitive play for the game, and I just think we wanted to get out there.
We already knew anyway. I don't understand how this is even news, to be honest with you.
Fair.
We knew this. Were you expecting this at all?
Expecting like a blowback?
No, were you expecting like an anime Bandai game level of hit the ground running? This is what I honestly, I think the problem is that Star Wars game said they were having all this stuff up front. That's the issue, to be honest with you.
I mean, the point is that they have already said that they have a competitive minded nature. Like Ravensburg has a competitive minded nature of events. They have committed to running organized play, right?
Right.
Just because they haven't announced anything right now or before the game comes out or even this year, I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh my God, they're definitely going to do something. But like, I mean, they have every chance in the world to make that happen. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't need to be in September, right? Like it doesn't need, like maybe it's in December after set 2. Maybe they get 2 sets out. They get everything set up. Maybe they, who knows? Honestly, they know best, right? Like, it's very possible that chapter 1 is not a great meta, right? Like it's very possible that at a competitive standpoint, they already know like, oh, chapter 1's meta game's kind of whatever. So we're not going to really mess with it until we get to chapter 2 where there's more cards, more archetypes, and more fluent to the game. Who knows, right? Like I have no idea, right? I'm not a designer. I didn't create the game, etc. But there's things like that where they might think of it that way, where it's like, okay, we'll accept if people do this so we can have the information, even though they're, 3-4 sets ahead in design. Don't get me wrong. The point is that they don't need to do it, right? All they need to do is print the product and see what happens. And since they've already committed 6 sets and are apparently already in development for set 7, they're in it for the long haul. So they don't need like no one really needs it to be like, oh my God, I need a high level competitive event in September. Like,
Right.
will there be one at one of these other things? Maybe, it's possible, but it doesn't have to be that way at all. I think at the very least, that's where the community comes in and comes together and starts building that local scene. Because, I mean, I know for us, I've already been in contact with several local game stores that are definitely going to at least dip their toe in. And we have Top Deck Games, which is associated to Card Kingdom, which is a pretty big entity in that world. So like, it's nice to be that close to someone that's that big, but anybody can really get this off the ground running, which is, I think, important. So I don't know. I'm not worried about it, right? That's the real truth. Like, I don't understand why people are so worried about it, which is the real truth. It's where I'm kind of at, where it's like, I see all these people where it's like, the world is on fire. It's like, no, it's not. It'll be okay.
And I don't think that a lot of these people that are saying this are the ones that would be, literally traveling around the world to play games. I don't think that's what's happening. I don't think they would be doing it for this game or other games. I mean, it's been, I don't know. I really don't think it's that big of a deal at all. Because I just think that, like, if you don't establish yourself locally or regionally, it's just not going to work anyway. Like, the game would just basically be. I mean, I could rattle off like games right now that I know have large cash tournament scenes, and you go to a local game store and no one there plays the game. So it's like, what do you do? You just show up to these giant events and just play there? You don't play with anybody locally or with your friends or anything? Like, what do you like? What does that do? Like, I don't understand how that works. Like, and like you said, I played Magic for 5 years before there was a Pro Tour. Like it's not that big of a deal. Because I'm old,
yeah.
But
and how many times did you go to like a 1K event or
every week when I was 16 to 17 every week.
Right. So like, that's kind of the point here, is that like,
yeah,
in order to get these events going, in order to create the competition, you do have to start locally and then let it grow. I mean, for Transformers trading card games, Scott and I basically Scott did it from day one. I did it from 6 months in, but we established this entire local scene to a point where it was like a monthly case event, right? Like that's what we built it up to be. And then from there, that's when Pastimes latched on, and Pastimes started running events, and then Pro Play Games latched on and they started running events. So like, the fact that we didn't even have to do any of that work yet, or even attempt to even create a competitive scene yet, and these brands have already latched themselves onto this game is great, because it means it's already there. It's already established, which means everything you do locally is just going to help the game grow anyway. Not that I really think it's going to need that much help.
Right. And I think that's part of the point. Yeah, I agree.
So totally. I think that's the big thing is you get your local scene going, you get, you have everything happening. And honestly, you should call around too. Like for us, Philadelphia is not, ironically, it's not a very big card store area, to be completely honest. There's only 2 or 3 of them. Thank you very much, wife. There's only 2 or 3 of them in actual Philadelphia that may even run events for the game. They might not even. It's most of it's greater Philadelphia, it's New Jersey, it's South New Jersey, and even northern New Jersey, things like that. So it's the more stores then I would keep communicating with your stores, really trying to find out which stores are advocating for it. And if you have to be the advocator, right? That's also important. If you have to reach out and say, hey, I will help run the events. Hey, I will, I want to get this going. I want to start the community. I'm sure, stores are going to be looking for that type of stuff as well. So,
Agreed.
I don't know. Any more in particular on competitive play, Scott?
No. I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. So how about we talk Gen Con then?
Sure.
So I'm going to bring it up, right? We'll take a look at this real quick. As you can see at Gen Con, everything is sold out, right?
Yes.
This was there we go, guys. Oh, I'm sorry. The grand finale is not sold out yet. My bad. I got really excited for a second. So 45 events, 44 events, 44 sold out. Scott, we were both in queue for the Gen Con. I was lucky enough to get 285, and you were, 1287 or something like that.
Yep.
And by the time it got to you, there was already no starter deck events at all, right? So that was at 1200. So, and what we learned from another friend that was at like in the 900s, that he also didn't get in the starter deck event in the 900s.
Right.
So within the first 1,000 people, you can do my math for me real quick. What's it? 60 times 7, so 560 seats. Is that what it is in these
60,
events?
No, it's 500 and it's what? It's 420.
420. So yeah, so 420 seats for 7 different events were gone within the first 800 people of the queue. So
easily, yeah.
Which is it's really unfortunate. One, right? For layers of reasons that I could go on and on about all day. But the truth is that this is something that we knew about. Like, we knew that it was possible. We absolutely we absolutely considered the fact that we're getting tickets to Gen Con. We're looking for our B&B. We're looking where we're going to stay, and we might do all of that and not get into one of these starter deck events. Absolutely possible. So let's just talk about for a moment, like, the obvious success in the room, right? So the fact that they sold out every single one of these events, I'm sure by like 5,000, 7, like whatever it was, maybe 10,000, who the hell knows? But the point is that every one of these events were sold out, and they did 45 of them. Every one of these events has 59 players registered to it. That's a shit ton of Lorcana for the weekend. It's got to be something that, like, they're happy about, right? Like that has to be my honest next here. So because of that, yes, it's unfortunate. Yes, it sucks because not everyone's going to get to play, and not everyone's going to get to experience like the starter deck challenge and things like that. And it's not great, but you also have to, you got to, for a moment, consider everything on their end and then really go back and retrace it, which is really difficult. Like, I know that it is. Like, even for myself, when they first announced the events, I'm like, man, 59 players really sucks because this game is really huge, and it feels like they're either just not acknowledging how huge it is, or they're just like actively kind of going against it to be like, leave them wanting more, maybe. I don't know. But the point is here that this is a good thing. Like, no matter what, I understand people are upset they're not going to play, but the fact that everything sold out as quickly as it did only proves already success for the game. Like, there's already, this will very likely not happen again, because now they understand the level of true need for the game. 420 seats gone by, seat 800. Like, if you were past 850 in the queue, you were not going to get into a starter deck event, which is miraculous, but it was very clearly true. So how do you feel about that, going in, right? Like, so, we're very competitive players. To see this level of it so quickly, like, yeah, we assumed it was going to happen, but like, it did actually happen. So, like, how does that make you feel, like, actually knowing that, like, the game is already this successful even at this level? Uh-oh, you're muted. I can see that you're muted on the desktop. There you go. Now you're back.
Sorry.
Did you change your mic again?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Does it sound different?
Yes.
Hold on.
Bear with us, guys. If you are hanging out in chat, how you guys doing?
Yeah, it did switch, actually. No, it didn't. Hold on. Now it's not even. Must have bumped it. It's not even registering this thing.
Oh, that was the water for my wife. Very convenient. There you go.
All right.
You sound better.
Okay, cool. I mean, the whole system was bad.
Sure.
I mean, we sat there and prioritized a waiting, like a list that didn't mean anything. Like,
I mean, it meant that it was in your list. That's what it meant.
It meant that if somehow it got to you, and like the order didn't. I don't know. The order didn't matter. I guess if
No,
I don't understand how it even worked. To be honest.
No, so organizing the actual list did not matter whatsoever. Just having the things in your list is what was most important.
Right. So I don't really understand what even happened there. So that's disappointing because I assume what was going to happen. And I understand that looking at how it went now, I understand why it didn't go this way, because this would require like a level of programming that they just weren't prepared to do, which have been like everybody's first choice, everybody's second choice, keep going until it fills that way. But that I don't know how they would have even done that. So whatever. But no, I mean, it's their starter deck events. Like, who cares? Like, like this is not to dovetail off the earlier conversation about organized play. Like, this is literally like, I mean, I played in Pro Tour 1, and you had to dial a number, and this was for I was still a junior at the time, so I was able to get in no problem. But like for the adults at the time, like it was literally almost the same thing. Like, you had to call a number and then get in a line and then hope that you qualified that. There's no PTQs for Pro Tour 1. Like, you literally just you called in. Wow. And if you got in, you got in. That's exactly what this was. And like, are people like, oh my God, the Pro Tour is awful because the first one was essentially this exact thing? Fair. No one even knows that because, again, I'm old.
I had no idea. I've never even heard you tell that story before.
Yeah, you had to call in. And again, because I was a junior, like, even though I called on day one, there was a lot more spots because there just weren't as many juniors playing. Right. And if I ran off if I told you the names of the people who were juniors in Pro Tour 1, let's just say
I know them. I know the names.
You would know the names. But for the older players who are now even older than me at this point, you know, like I said, there was no PTQ system, so they just called in and got in. This is the exact same thing. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. The thing I feel bad about, though, is I'm getting a sentiment that like all people thought they could get into were the seal deck events, and like now they didn't put the learn to plays on their queue.
Right.
So now all of a sudden they're gonna walk out of there and like I understand, like, get up at 4:00 in the morning or whatever they want to do to wait in line to get product. And I did just hear that Ravensburger has its own room. So it may not even be in the dealer hall. So it may be easier to get product because you may be waiting.
Did they?
I just saw somebody post. I saw something on Twitter just now about somebody because I'm multitasking. I saw somebody post that where
did you retweet?
No, I gotta find it, but
I'm gonna go find it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Where somebody had said that they have their own room, which means that it might be easier to get product because if they are dedicated enough to have their own room where they're running events, then, you know, they may either, you know, just bring more product with you or with them, or like, you know, just understand the band is there to have their own room instead of them. I guess somebody said it was in the old auction room. I'm trying to find I don't remember who tweeted it.
I don't even know the old auction room. I mean, like what was it? Man, what's it been? Has it been like 5 years since we've been to Gen Con? Was it 2019? So 4 years? Right?
2019.
So yeah, 2019. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, for what it's worth, when I went to Gen Con in 2019, all I did was sit in a room and play Transformers. So I don't really recall it what the auction room would be like. But it's cool if that's true. If they have their own room, that's probably good news. You know, you're not dealing.
That's not where the events will be.
No, yeah. The events will be. It's just where the events. I never assumed that you would be able to buy product for where the events were. Like, that's and we'll get into this like in another podcast, obviously, like about Gen Con in general for players that have never experienced it. But, you know, there's like an expo hall, which is where all the selling and stuff goes, and then there's like the gaming lounge or the gaming hall, whatever you want to call it. Pastimes will be associated with the gaming lounge, and now Pastimes will have like their, you know, like their deal set up and like their store set up and everything like that, where you can like buy singles for other games. Obviously, they won't have singles for Lorcana. And they might, for what it's worth, they might be buying Lorcana singles. I mean, who knows, right? Like they might. But they'll also have like a prize wall and stuff like that. And I 100% assume there could very well be like Dinsey Lorcana prize wall associated stuff. So like that might be something to look into. Maybe the play mats that are going out, they also might be associated to like the prize wall that you can get for playing other games. Who knows, right? Like we don't know anything yet, but from past experiences and other things we've seen, Pastimes does do like a whole prize wall scenario, and it's normally like unique to the convention type presents, like in type gifts and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. Did you find the tweet? I can't find it.
No, I'm looking for it. I know.
All
it
right,
exists
that's
out
fine.
there. I just don't.
It exists. It exists. It's okay. But yeah, so like again, the fact that 44 events sold out in mere hours realistically is nothing but a good sign for the game. I agree with you. I reciprocate like that that sentiment that people only register for the starter deck events does feel kind of bad, because at the end of the day, yeah, you get to play 3 rounds with a starter deck, but the learn to play is just getting cards in hand, getting starter deck, getting a booster pack, like having that opening that first booster pack is it's normally a good feeling for everybody. So, people that didn't get involved with that definitely sucks. But we'll see what happens. And like, it's not the end of the world. There is potential that they do open more of this up. It's not like this is the end all be all. I think if they really wanted to and they decided, hey, we're going to open, granted, I'm sure that might be just as worse, because let's say at 12 o'clock on a Thursday, they're like, oh, we just added 20 seats to every event. Well, whoever sees that tweet will be the first 20 people to get it. So we'll see what happens. But,
right.
All in all, I just wanted to touch on Gen Con because, I know people were definitely upset about it, and it's fair to be upset, right? Like it's totally understandable. Scott did not get into any of the starter deck events. I was lucky enough to get into them, but that was a difference of 1,000 in line, So just to give people over like a true understanding of like, honestly, the luck involved with it was, I honestly just think it is. I think everyone probably did hit that button all at the exact same time, and it just randomized it to what it was. So, I don't know. We'll see. Now, we did have a couple. I want to go and find them real quick for everybody, hopefully without triggering any sounds that I don't want. No, that's not what I wanted. If Scott is looking for our, all right, cool. We were able to get out of it. So there was a couple interesting questions that were asked that I did want to cover real quick. I know there was a couple on Twitter, so I'll go to the ones on Twitter that we tweeted out a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago. I'll bring this up for you guys to see it. Oh yeah, if anyone didn't see this sweet lore thing, man, this thing's pretty cool. All right, so heading down. There we go. Here is our first. So the first is, we'd like to hear more about the pros and cons of not having competitive play for the year. We basically covered that in here. We covered it. So hopefully we got there for you. Lorcana memes, hopefully you figured it out. Citizens Lorcana wrote, if I didn't get a tournament ticket, should I cancel my trip to Gen Con? I wrote immediately like, no, don't do that. That's a bad idea. About a week before the event, we were talking about Gen Con and we were discussing everything. And, we were weighing the pros and cons of going to Gen Con if we didn't get into the starter deck events and things like that. And I had said, like, man, I think it's really important that we go. I think, personally, we want to be a presence within this game, and with that, this is it's an opportunity that we were never going to get back. And because of that, like, we have to go no matter what. Yeah, we got a little lucky. We got into some of the events and we're going to get to play in these events. But had we not, I still would have, we still would have been. We decided, a couple days before Gen Con, before the tickets went on sale, that we were going to go no matter what. So I think it's important to go. If you didn't get a ticket, yes, it sucks. It just sucks because it was a limited thing. There is no doubt about that. But being there, being in the room, getting the experience, honestly, seeing the cards firsthand. I think there's going to be a lot of fun to be had. I think there's going to be, a lot of good conversations about the game and a lot of excitement. And this is it, right? This is basically the big first step for the game. It's a pre-launch to the game that comes out in a few weeks after Gen Con takes place, but just being around all the excitement, meeting, your peers that are going to be involved in this game for the years to come, the content creators that are going to be there. It seems like there's going to be a bunch of us there that's going to be hanging out, playing games. I'm sure you can find Scott at every, he's going to be there the whole time doing his thing. I'll be there. I'll do my thing. We have others that'll be within our party, as you would say, for all you D&D fans. And I just think it's going to be a blast. So definitely, if you didn't get into a tournament, if you didn't get a tournament ticket, go have fun. It's going to be a hell of a weekend, right, Scott? Come on.
Yeah, but I don't want to sugarcoat it though.
No, I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat that it's not that it doesn't suck, right? Like, it absolutely sucks that you didn't get in. But like, there's still you got to look at like every opportunity that you can win, right? So like the opportunities of win of like, okay, so like I had an opportunity to win in a starter deck event and I didn't. All right, what's the next opportunity? Well, the next opportunity is doing the learn to play. Okay, well, what's the next opportunity? The next opportunity is getting familiar with the community, right? Like being there, being active, having the opportunity to maybe even have a conversation with Ravensburg, like all those things that like can happen just by being in the room. For us, obviously, we're going to have content for every day. I'm going to, depending on how good the service is, I plan on doing like multiple short uploads a day to kind of keep everybody informed of what's going on in the weekend and things like that. So like, we're going to be there because we are, our shtick is competitive, right? Like we are at the top tier competitive. You're looking at 2 players on the screen right now that have had 10, 15, 20 years of success in card games. So like, yeah, we're there because we want to go and play in the starter deck events and beat and compete, but like, we're going to be at every event, most likely, definitely all the North American events. And I know that we'll probably be at some of the global events when they happen, etc. But the point is that this is an event that it didn't have to be in the starter deck event for us to be there because of all the other importance surrounding it. Although it's a nice little nudge that we get to play in the starter deck events, obviously.
So did you see what I sent you, by the way?
Where'd you send it to me?
On Facebook.
Okay, on Facebook.
So you can pull it up.
Okay, let's bring you over here. I'll pull this up for everybody. Is this the tweet?
It's not the tweet. It's the map of
okay.
the exhibitors, and it implies that they're not in the exhibit hall.
Oh, okay.
So if you go to the thing in the top right corner, it says like the sponsor one. So like if you zoom in,
top right.
Yeah, so right below Gen Con exhibit hall.
Oh, okay. This thing.
The thing right below the Gen Con exhibit hall.
This thing right here, right? How do I zoom in on this?
Hold down Control and click.
I see.
Scroll your mouse up.
Okay. Ready? Here we go.
And then scroll up. Yeah, and then scroll up.
All right. So we're. No.
Scroll a little more in.
Well, let me do it. Let's go. We'll just hit this button a bunch of times. There we go.
So now scroll right.
La.
That might be a little too big, but
hold please. We'll get it. We'll get it. There we go.
Okay, so right there. So scroll to the right a little bit.
To the right. Okay, I see it.
So see how it doesn't say event hall?
Yeah.
So that's a room. That's a room.
Hey, that's kind of close to the press room.
And yeah, and there's nobody else that has that number that I can tell.
Okay.
So in all likelihood, they have that room to themselves. I don't know how big like Pandasaurus Games is, or like I know Renegade.
I know Renegade. Yeah, I know Renegade's big.
Yeah, I know Artal Soren is.
But even as an example, like Wise Wizard Games, Upper Deck, that's all event hall.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, Magic the Gathering is event hall. Hasbro is event hall. So yeah, I mean, this could be good news for sure if it has its own room. So that's pretty exciting. 100%. Look at that, live. This just happened live, guys. We wouldn't be here if we weren't.
It might have been here before. I just never noticed it before. But...
How dare you?
So
But yeah, all right. So the last question we had, which I thought was a funny one, was any info on first edition cards and how long they will be available before the company starts selling non-first edition cards. Spoiler for Club Lorcana, there are no first edition cards, so we don't got to worry about that.
Yeah, they're not marked in any way.
No, they're not marked.
Yeah, they're not
Aside
marked.
from the D23 cards that were specifically marked for D23, no other card is marked in any which other way, so we don't need to worry about that. Do you think the culture of players will be better than what much of the TCG community has devolved into? Some good packaging community out there. I don't personally know, like a general answer to this question. From my understanding and from where I'm sitting, there is a lot of new TCG players to the game, which is, just I could be wrong, right? But like I feel that way, that it looks like it's a lot of like first time TCG players and things like that. And normally that is like a good friendly community in general from my point of view. That's how Transformers trading card game was. Like a good portion of the community was like a new trading card game because they were just stoked about Transformers. It feels that this is kind of similar to that. Like, do you agree with that, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say is, yeah, but I don't know that, like, it's because of competition reasons or anything like that. So, but I would say that no one I've seen, a lot of people I've seen are in it for the long haul, which is probably more important to me, and more important for a community to stay than it is like game jumping. So,
right.
So I don't think it's like, get in and get out. Does that mean that, like, somebody's going to win a box and immediately sell it? Yes. I mean, like that. I don't think that matters. Like, I don't like, does that mean everyone's just going to hold all their play mats and all their pins and never sell them and like whatever, and the things have no value? Like, no, but I don't think it's going to be like, I think what he's talking about is like the toxic elements, and I don't see that happening. I don't know that an IP necessarily has a lot to do with that, but I don't think that this is attracting that kind of crowd that I've seen. So I think it'll be better. I think there will be serious players, but not necessarily like game.
I mean,
type players.
Yeah, I mean, everybody likes money, right? Like that's that's number one. So like, there's a clear draw to this game. Once again, sold out of Gen Con, in like an hours. So like, if there is particular product with stamped Gen Con stuff on it, it's going to be collectible. It's going to be sought after. Will everyone that wins sells it? No. Will people sell it? Yeah, they will, because again, people like money. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Like it is, it's, if it's their prize, it's their prize to do whatever they think is best for them, right? So those are things I wouldn't be worried about. I think like you said, I think there's a lot of content creators out there that are very, very clearly in from the start. There's content creators out there that have been out there for 6, 7, 8 months longer than we have, obviously, that have been covering the game since day one, that are very committed to the game and committed to the IP and things like that. And then there's some others that are jumping around doing their own thing. And, maybe Dinsey Lorcana is just a hop, skip, and jump. It's hard to say. But I think the good portion of majority of this community is that you'll see people are very invested in the game. And yeah, it's early on, but like, we're already printing out proxies. We're already, been playing. Scott and I've already spent over 10 hours playing the game, right? Like, if not longer. We talk about the game every single day, so like the fact that we're only 78 cards in and, 3 months or 74 days from Gen Con, which I imagine at Gen Con, if the whole game isn't spoiled by then, by the end of that weekend, it absolutely will be, because so many booster packs are going to be opened that we're just going to know everything.
Oh yeah.
So I think the community is in a good position, and I think we're okay. Ironically, I think without the first layer support of OP, high level competitive play from Ravensburg, it might even help the community stray away from some of those more toxicity places. It's possible. I don't personally believe that, but like I can make an argument why it would or wouldn't. but all in all, I think it's in a great place. We've only really been in the game for about 6 weeks now, content wise, and we've had great communications with just about everybody that I've communicated with, and I know that you talk to people even more than I do because you've been a little bit more invested before I was totally invested. So I'm excited for the community. I'm really excited for Gen Con. I'm really excited to get there. I'm really excited to meet a ton of different people from my understanding all over the world, which is kind of cool. Some of these guys are flying in from overseas and things like that. So should be fun. Right, Scott? Did I lose you? Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you lost me. Yeah.
I'm here.
All right. So with that,
it's my slow computer.
Yeah, it's that, and your lack of USB ports.
Yes, it's always thing.
With that, I think we can kind of land the plane here. Is there any last things you wanted to kind of talk about before we we drift in here?
No, everything's fine. I just keep seeing the tweets about, I don't know how I feel about not having competitive play, and they just don't understand what competitive play is. That's all.
Yeah,
I can't state it more. I can't keep stating it over and over again. So
yeah, it's got to be said that it will exist. There is a place for it. People are already committed to it. Huge organizations are already committed to it, and I don't think there's anything at all to worry about. Like literally, just nothing at all to worry about whatsoever. If you're going to want to play this game, you're going to be able to play this game, and if it's not at some high level competition of play, then I suggest to you do your very best to become as a community growth locally to set those up. I mean, I can tell you, I wouldn't be shocked that if within a month or two, Scott and I have already organized some 1K at a store locally, because I know there's things that we'll strive for, and there's the things that we want to do for our local scene and create these happening larger events, even if it is 50, 60, 70 players, whatever it is, that's more than the 8 or 10 people you might get locally. And for what it's worth, I think there's a good chance that even at the very beginning, there's a chance that you're going to see 30 players come to a local night or something like that just to try the game. It's very likely that it's going to happen. So I think as long as you take your local community to the best of your ability, can help it grow, help this store, help your local game store, make sure they're getting into all the programs that are out there, because Robbinsburg has a link to their website and they have things set up. I know that I have done it time and time again. I've messaged some of our owners of our local game stores to try to remind them of those things. But I think as long as you're active, as long as you're proactive, then the game will succeed at your local level. And we've said it, over and over again. There's already people, third parties, ready to go, rearing to go, and ready to set up for this game to help us with high level competitive play. So with that, we are gonna, we're gonna officially land. We're gonna call this one the end of the live stream. Thank you guys for whoever was hanging out and viewing with us today. This was recorded live in the middle of the day, kind of a pop up. Was easier for me and Scott to make it work out this way. Won't always be at this time. We do plan on having a more set schedule and things like that moving forward. Is hopefully the closer we get to the game, the more news we'll get to the game, the more things we'll get to talk about. So, but with that, we are going to end it. Thank you guys for hanging out again, and we will catch you guys in the next video. See ya.
Thanks. See ya. The memes guy was